welcome back. It's LaJoyce. So happy to see you today. You're welcome to the Joy Journey. Here we talk about infertility, we talk about motherhood, we talk about ways to equip you for the journey from fertility to motherhood. And I just am so happy that you are taking time to be here with me today. We're just going to talk about some questions and answers that you guys had regarding infertility, faith, and motherhood. I asked you some questions on social media about things that you guys wanted me to approach in a video, and so we'll discuss in this video what those topics are. We'll get into things from sexual positions to greatest fears to overcoming them to motherhood, those types of things. So if you listen to the end, I think you will really enjoy this video today, and I appreciate again you being here. Let's get into it. So the first question was, what resources did you use to keep your faith high, to keep your faith up? And other than the most obvious, which is, the Bible, reading scripture and things like that, I feel like a prayer partner was the number one thing that really helped keep my spirits up, because there's nothing like that personal contact and someone who actually can kind of feel you out and know when you're in need with you not even having to say that. A prayer partner is key. And my prayer partner, I talked about this in videos before, happened to be the OBGYN that I started off with, who also became my friend and who was also experiencing some of the same things. But you can find prayer partners at your church, or you can find prayer partners within different communities that you might be in social media, or it could be just a friend or your parent or a family member that is just willing to uplift you by praying with you and for you. Secondly, one of the things that helped keep my faith up were support group. And it was support group of women that I found through church, but it was women that were also going through infertility at different stages of that journey. And since it was, Christian based, it wasn't drilling in, scripture and all those things as we spent time together. It was more so just experiencing and doing life together and just witnessing how we were both depending and relying on God at different points in our journey. So that was like a good way to personalize his concern, his care, and his grace that he lends us, because we were witnessing each of us overcome our obstacles at different points in the journey, which was the greatest display of his promises. And they say, like, once your neighbors are being blessed, just get ready, because the blessing is coming your way. So that kept me uplifted just to be in that community with people going through it as well. In addition to support groups, small groups was also helpful. And these were actual couples from church, again, that were not going through infertility. These were just couples that we were doing life with, meeting up once a month or what have you, once every other week, to just live. We ate together, we laughed together, we did praise reports together, so they knew what we were going through. And in this group is one of the first places where we actually told people about what we were going through, and they were so uplifting. And when we had wins, they were like just as happy and as excited as we were to have wins. So having just a support system that's Christian based, if that's what you happen to be, or just someone who has the same spiritual background that you have, is a great way to keep you on track and keep you uplifted as well. The other one is scripture, but journaling how those scriptures actually pertain to you, and actually strategically picking scriptures that do reinforce his promises, reinforce the power of prayer, reinforce the power of peace, reinforce the power of, grace, and all the things that you need to uplift you and keep you motivated during this time. You can grab that from scripture, but put your personal spin on it and journal next to that as to how you have seen his miracles already in small increments happen in your life. And it just keeps you positive. It just keeps the positive juices flowing. And the last thing I would say is showing gratitude. Gratitude actually keeps you in a positive mindset at all times. And rather that is writing that down or journaling it, or just in your mind, just thanking God for something that he's done for you. It could be one little thing that he's done for you within that past day or week or month. So just staying in gratitude is so important in keeping your spirits up. The next question I want to address is one that seems pretty obvious, and it is, what is your greatest fear going through infertility? And of course, most people automatically want to say, well, of course, it's not having a kid, not having a child, not being able to get pregnant. And honestly, that wasn't my greatest fear, honestly, like directly. My greatest fear more so was not to be able to witness the joining of my husband and myself, our genetics, to see what that would be like, how that would manifest, what that would personify in an actual human being, just to see what great qualities they would have from us and what great qualities they would have from him. And I know it would be some of the bad ones too, but it was just the anticipation of that build up that you have ideally fantasized about in your own head. So that was a greatest fear initially, but I quickly got over that fear, and I realized how the development of a child is greatly resulted in the nurturing of that child. So what you teach them, what you instill in them. And not only that, should pregnancy happen through different means like donor eggs and things like that, you still house that child. That child is getting your blood supply. There's still a form of connection that will not, that will never be denied. And then you think of things also like, what will they look like? Will they look like both of us? I want some, my child to have some of my features or my family features. But quite honestly, you can have kids that have none of your features anyway. So that's also a very superficial way of thinking. So I really just had to kind of knock a lot of the original thinking that I had in order to get past that fear, so that if I had to take one of those other options of not having a biological child, it was no longer an issue for me. I tackled the greatest fear head on, analyzed it, thought about the worst case scenario, and actually there were way more pros than cons that I could imagine. I mean, think about it. I mean, how wonderful it would be to have a child that was just a wonder to you every day. Like, you're discovering them. Like, nothing is hardly familiar, as far as their personality. And you're discovering and you're learning about them, and you're discovering the world through their eyes like you would do with any kid. So it became very obsolete issue for me. And once I faced that fear and was able to look at the worst case scenario, which really was not a worst case scenario, I got past that fear and I can move forward and breathe, with that heavy burden not being upon me. Okay, the next question I had was, what sexual positions or what forms of intercourse would you suggest? And these, of course, were people that were more comfortable with being candid with me. Would you suggest to get pregnant? And it's one of those questions that you have to pause, because honestly, it's a bit private. But, I feel like in order to get past some of the stigma of infertility, of trying to get pregnant, some of the things that just have been so hidden before, we need to talk about this stuff, because this is stuff that is on our minds. And honestly, if we were to face some of these things that we think about openly with people that we care about and that care about us, we might be able to cut some timing and some hurdles that we have way down. So let's talk about the sexual position that I feel is the most beneficial to getting you pregnant faster. And that position is called the anvil position. I'll show you here, and I know this video is not made for children, and I'm not going to get explicit or anything like that, but this position is the best position in my opinion, and I had it recommended by a medical provider as well, because it actually gets the little swimmers exactly where they need to be. It gets it closest to the point of where it needs to be to reach your eggs and to implant and to fertilize and all of those things. And so it's less work on the swimmers and less work for us if those things are closer in proximity, just to be blunt. So I got pregnant twice utilizing the system. If you want to call it a system. They say once you know better, you do better. So once I knew about it, hey, we tried it, and thank God it worked. Now, I don't want to downplay other issues that are not just a positional issue as far as infertility is concerned. If at all possible for you to get pregnant naturally, this might boost those chances. So the next question that I got was, what did you do to enjoy life during your journey to motherhood? And honestly, to enjoy, sometimes it was an actual conscious effort. It's so easy to kind of sit and wallow in the desperation, in the sadness. It's a slippery slope to go towards depression, and especially if you are flooding your mind with the wrong things, like negativity or things in social media that are triggering, people having gender reveals and such. So one of the things that I did do is spend more time in things that actually fulfill me. And that was friendships, that was going home to visit my family, a place that is always warm and welcoming. And since they knew at some point during the journey what we were going through, they wouldn't press those issues. It was also doing things that took my mind into a different space. So that's movies, or, listening to music that I like, or Audible, or reading, those different types of things as well. And also going on trips, staycations, planning events, anything that would kind of allow myself to, experience joy, experience happiness in the mix of my hopeful journey to motherhood. A few months after losing Gabriella, my husband gifted me tickets to a Beyonce concert. And if you guys know nothing else about me, please note that Beyonce, she is such a gift to my life. I mean, I can listen to Beyonce and completely be empowered and ready to go, ready to move, just have all of my swag back with a few songs of listening to Beyonce. So thank you, B. But he gifted me a ticket to one of her concerts, which was so great. And y'all, I'm not gonna act like it just completely takes your mind off of it, because it was really hard for me to get in a space to actually enjoy the concert. But luckily the ladies that I went with, they knew what happened, and they did everything they could do to uplift me and kind of handhold, and they listened to me. They were just so supportive during that time and wanted to make sure that I had a great time. And it wasn't probably the best time that I could have had at a Beyonce concert, but I did get some enjoyment and pleasure from that moment, and also just true appreciation for my husband's consideration at the time to arrange that for me. The next question I had was, do you have any regrets? This was a very general question, so I kind of related it to the journey and what we had gone through during that time. But my regrets lied around things that led up to losing my last baby. Her name was Gabriella, and we lost that pregnancy through incompetent cervix. So we had gotten to nearly 5 months of pregnancy and had settled into that pregnancy prior to losing her. We had no idea at this point that we had an incompetent cervix. But the regrets were playing over and over and over in my head, the events that led up to her loss. So y'all, I was thinking about forever the shoes that I could have worn that were you know how older people, or some people that are very superstitious, will tell you don't wear heels when you're pregnant, or don't do this and don't do that. Well, I had not worn any heels or anything less than a flat, but it was Valentine's Day, the day prior to me losing her, and I wore heels. So forever in a day, I tortured myself about those heels and was like, well, maybe that was the cause, maybe this. Even, signs that could have been missed during that night prior to me losing her. Like, I just literally tortured myself for months. And I still think about those things sometimes, but I had to reconcile that in my own heart, in my own mind. And I prayed about it and asked God to, help me find some type of peace around the occurrence of what had happened. And I realized that Gabriella's life was for a reason. It was for a season. And in order to have my other two children, Olivia and Sydney, I would have had to go through it, recognize that I had an incompetent cervix, and take the proper precautions to protect the following two pregnancies. So I had to look at it in a different perspective as to why it happened, or why God allowed it to happen, in order for me to deal with that regret. So I don't torture myself over that anymore. I wonder sometimes if things could have been different had, such and such and such, but I don't let it get me down, and I don't let it get me depressed. So to answer your question, that's what it would be. So from some of our sisters, I did get this question a few times, was, well, what is motherhood like? What is it like when you try so hard for so long to get to a point and you finally get it? Is it what we've built up to? Is it what we imagine? Like, what is it like? And I would say that motherhood is more than I could ever imagine. It is more challenging than I could ever imagine. It is more rewarding than I can ever imagine. If ever I found a true soulmate, I would say that that is in my children. And I know that might be controversial for people that feel that, their husband or a sister or a brother or mother is their true soulmate. But I truly found that I think my soulmates are in my children. They're in my girls. And not to say that I don't love those other relationships any less. But if I was honest, I do feel like it's a completely different type of love that you feel. It's pretty much an extension of your own self. So it teaches you how to love yourself better because they're an extension of yourself. It teaches you how to prioritize yourself because you have to be a whole person to be there for them. And it shows you how to juggle. I mean, I pledged to sorority, so I know how to juggle certain things. And, I'm just a woman in general. We know how to keep a lot of things rolling at some times, but it teaches you how to put one thing in the forefront and then put the others on the back burner because that one thing is a priority at that time. So being a mother is everything. I mean, when it happens for you, or if it has already happened to you and you know this, you gain so much strength as a woman. You feel like you can conquer the entire world. I mean, really, you feel like there's nothing else that you can't do if you have become a mom, and if you do it in a way that you feel is respectable and honorable and just true to yourself. We make mistakes, you forgive yourself. You just do the best that you possibly can at that job. But I will leave this video with saying that if anything else in this world I don't accomplish, I'm okay. I'm really okay with that because God has blessed me with his precious gifts to hold and to mold. And that is my job. How I do that job and in what position I can do that job from is left up to me. And so in nurturing that precious gift that he has given me twice, I have to nurture myself as well. And I'm learning to do that more and do that better at this phase of life. I'd like to add, for those that are in a place where you feel like you are at the point of deciding to be child-free and that you do not want to become a mom any longer, which I doubt you're watching this type of video if that's you. But if it is, and you're still kind of having a little doubt going back and forth, note that becoming a mom is not the only way to feel completely whole either. That is definitely not what I'm trying to say. Becoming a mom is just a different way of getting to that destination. So there's so many ways that you can feel fulfilled and feel your place and space in this world. But becoming a mom is just one of those, and I'm just grateful and thankful that God has just allowed me to do that. And I just pray for you and your journey and your choices that you've made going forward from here. Okay, so those are all the questions that I'll be addressing today. If you have any other questions, you can always DM me on Instagram, and I'm good for answering questions there. And occasionally I'll be doing little polls and posts and things there too, just to ask if you guys have anything else that you'd like for me to address in a video or just on Instagram itself. I thank you so much for being here as usual. I really appreciate you. I love you. I'm sending so much light out to you today. I pray that nothing in this video was offensive to you, but I just want to try to be as transparent and open as I possibly can in order for you to know me, know the journey, and get a realistic view of what this life is like being in the position that I'm in. And if you would please like, subscribe, and join this community. Leave some comments down below and reach out to me if you need any assistance with coaching, preparing your body for IVF, recentering yourself after a loss or after a miscarriage, or just preparing your body, mind, body, and soul to get ready for the journey if you've just gotten a diagnosis of infertility or just found out about some obstacles that you may have. Please email me, DM me, those types of things to get in touch with me, and I will follow up with you. I promise you I will. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.